for the worst socioeconomic and geopolitical crisis in modern history. And then we have Janet Yellen, who back in April of 2021 said, no, this inflation isn't real. Now she's saying the recession isn't real. So if they're spewing out the same garbage, we should swallow it, because after all, they've been totally wrong before, so they must be right now. Or else they were lying about it, because everybody knew inflation was real, but they wanted to keep those zero interest rate policies so they could keep the equity markets going up. What did they pump in? $6.3 trillion? Everything they can to do it. The market should have crashed back in 2020. It should have been over. The businesses have been destroyed. Hey, let's not talk about office occupancy rates in America. They're only, around 40%. Cities like in New York, 35%. Oh, all those businesses, the dry cleaners, and the shoe repair, oh, the hairdressers, oh, happy hours, all gone. Oh, and now I'm renting, let's say I have 8 stories of a building. My people don't want to commute an hour and a half anymore on the LIE. They hated it, going an hour and a half back and forth. I'll work from home 3 days a week. Great. I'll save on rent. This is for real. Office occupancy rates in New York City, in Chicago, in San Francisco, they're in the toilet. We're in an economic crisis, I believe is the worst in modern history, with them inflating, artificially pumping up the economy. What are we, over $30 trillion in debt, $31 trillion in debt. And now you're hearing, by the way, one after another, the IMF, what is it, the International Monetary Fund, they came out this past Thursday and warned of very, very difficult economic times for the entire globe.
So this is a whole scam, because these liars, these little freaks, the central banksters, were BSing us for how many years? That when inflation hits around 2%, we will be raising interest rates. This is a crime syndicate. There was this story about a person by the name of Jesus Christ. One day, he drives the banksters out of the temple, the money changers, the Goldman Sachs gang, the JP Morgan Chase bandits. Oh, JP Morgan Chase, you mean the one that rigged the precious metals market and only got fined $900 million? Oh, yeah, those banksters. Nothing has changed. And by the way, 3 days later, he's up on the cross. So you don't screw with the banksters.
It was, the whole thing has been pumped up. You could stop the stuff about supply chain disruption. Yeah, that's part of it. All of the countless trillions of dollars that they've pumped into the economy to artificially boost it up is what's pushing up inflation. And now the imbeciles and morons that people call government officials have just increased the debt burden of the United States by only another $2.5 trillion so that we don't default on our debt. So dragflation is, no, it's not going to be a stagnant economy, stagflation. The economy is going to go down as inflation continues to go up. Again, this is global. You're looking at merger and acquisition activity in the United States. It hit an all-time high because they're borrowing all this cheap money and buying up everything. Same thing going on in Australia. So when we look at the real interest rate, what do we have? Near zero interest rate. Now we just mentioned, what, a 6.8% inflation rate? The two things they don't want to happen. They don't want the equity markets to crash, and they don't want gold prices to skyrocket to where they should go, because then the little people will know how bad it is. They don't know how bad it is until the markets crash. Gold prices should have been skyrocketing for the last 3 years.
Why would they care? Why would they want to shield that reality from the little people of knowing how bad it is? They've done it in the past, in the 90s.
Well, again, not like now, because the crisis that we're facing now is unprecedented. Unprecedented. The countless trillions of dollars that they've pumped into the economies around the world. Around the world. You're going to see, it's the new world disorder. You're looking at the emerging markets. Why is the dollar strong? The dollar's strong because all the other ones are so weak. Again, listen to the crap that's spewed out of the mouths of the central bankers. And now the European Union aggressively raised interest rates from minus 0.50 basis points to 0 interest rates. What, are you kidding me? What do they got? An 8.6% inflation rate? And the IMF I mentioned before? If you borrow money from the IMF, they tell you to raise your interest rates 1% above inflation, which means that our interest rates should be, what, 10.1%? Europe should be 9.6%. Look at the data coming out of Germany. The biggest, richest country, down, everything down, everything down. You go shopping, you know what the reality is on inflation. So they're saying now they're going to let inflation go over 2%, and they made up that 2% number in 2012. But they're going to start raising it at some point because investors plow money into TIPS vehicles. Funds that hold inflation-protected bonds are enjoying their longest streak of inflows in more than a decade as investors grid themselves for an increase in consumer prices as the U.S. economy recovers. European banks plan to slash business travel, bodes ill for airline recovery hopes. This is out of Financial Times. I'm mentioning this because commercial real estate sectors like New York, the big cities, conventions, trade shows, people traveling back and forth, there's going to be a lot less travel. Business travel is the most lucrative way airlines make money. That's where they make the dough, not on tourism travel. And now this thing's going to go down. If anybody doesn't see what's going on, you better grow up. This is a takeover of our freedom like you cannot imagine, because we've never seen this in our living history. In the past, this has happened.